This episode of Conversations About Conversations is brought to you by ROGO and Conversations, How to Manage Your Business Relationships One Conversation at a Time, the book. Visit conversations.biz/book for more information. To our audience, I am pleased and proud to welcome you to Conversations About Conversations. I'm talking today with my guest, Vladlena DuFresne. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, thank you for having me, Ivan. I've been looking forward to it as well.
You are a CEO of a tech platform that is designed to make people's lives easier and more fun.
That's right.
And the name is ROGO. And please tell us what you can about it.
Absolutely. Well, ROGO is really the platform that helps you rent for your event. And so really what it does is it connects borrowers and lenders with one another. So I like to think of it in terms of ways that people relate to it as OfferUp meets Airbnb. So it's your items, but it's like the platform of Airbnb where you're renting it. You're not really committing to buying it. And it really solves the problem of a budget for an event. And then of course, storage. You don't always need to keep the things that you need for just a weekend or so. And then as a lender, the items that you do have and are lending out, you get to make extra money off of that. So it's a win-win situation.
What kind of items do you envision being a part of the platform?
So really what we're envisioning is events. So when you think ROGO, I want you to think rent for your event. So whatever things you need, when you think of the first things you need for an event, that's usually tables, chairs, decorations. One of the big things that, I was personally inspired from was planning my own wedding and things like wedding arches, photo backdrops, fake flowers for certain pieces, decorations, dishware and silverware. All of those things can be items on the platform. And so if that's something that you need for your event to make it the most beautiful and the most fun event that you are actually dreaming up, use ROGO and rent for your event.
Where did the name ROGO come from?
Yeah, so that's actually a fun story. So it came from my aha moment, which was actually in 2017. So this has been years in the making. And the moment came when I was actually working in downtown Portland, and I did photography at that time. And I had a friend reach out to me and she wanted me to take photos of her in the area. Now, Portland, I think for people that are here locally know that with traffic, it's just an hour one way to get across the bridge. So to go to my home, get my camera, come all the way back, we wouldn't have time to accomplish what we were looking to do. And so I just thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I could just be on an app and see who near me has the item I'm looking for so I could rent it on the go, like ROGO. So it was really kind of the concept of renting on the go, and ROGO kind of came to my mind.
I'm amazed that I didn't see that earlier, but rent on the go.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So events is really what the current vision is. I answered a survey of yours a few months ago, and it talked a lot about like sports equipment and like big things. Is that no longer your focus? Really,
there were different categories that came to my mind that I wanted to make people's lives be easier in, whether that be events, technology, adventure, home and garden, whatever it might be. And really that survey that you took, and thank you for taking that, it really helped identify what is the biggest need right now. What do borrowers want to see the most? And what do lenders want, or not want, but what are they most comfortable with lending out? And events came in the top for both. So we just want to be strategic and really serve our audience. And so we decided to launch with events. In the future, we may have some new categories coming out, but for the main focus right now, it is going to be events.
Yeah, thinking about what investors want, because ultimately this venture doesn't happen without investors.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, that's been part of the journey, and a growing journey at that. I think there's a lot to be learned along the way since I decided to just jump in.
What are some of the things you've learned about investors and talking to investors?
I think one of the funniest things, at least to me looking back now, what's funny is one of the first things I did when I decided to jump in completely in this, I decided to spend some time by myself to really put together everything that was in my mind about ROGO, not just the idea, but the different categories I had in mind, the market that we're going to serve, the competition, any similar companies, similar, in the sharing economy, doing competitor analysis, doing a model of what would profit look like long term. And once I completed that, it was probably over 60 pages. And so I condensed it for myself even to about 30-ish or so. But I thought, okay, I'm prepared to meet with investors now. I have the vision, I have it laid out, I'm ready. And when I went into the meeting, I realized not only do I have to sell the idea, which that's the part I was comfortable with, I have to tell them, how is it going to benefit them? What does the actual investment portion look like? What investment vehicles are we using? What are the terms? And my first meetings, probably my first few meetings, I just scrambled to figure out, well, what do you want? And I just didn't have my intention set. And so that was one of the first lessons is, let's pause. We need to make sure this part is also complete. And then, so I paused on investor meetings until I got that figured out. And then I continued forward.
How did you get that figured out?
As a CEO of a startup, you have to be very resourceful. So I did everything from researching online, looking at templates of different types of investment vehicles, figuring out what I thought made the most sense to me. And then I actually reached out to a startup consultant and ran my idea by him, what I was thinking. And he actually had a company that does evaluations for companies, specifically with what kind of investment vehicle should you do? And we work together to figure out what exactly are we going to do. And to this day, I still use him as a resource and we stay in touch. And he's actually a go-to consultant for me.
When did you actually decide this is what I'm going to do?
In terms of start the company?
Yeah, start the company, be the CEO.
The story started in 2017. I don't think I made the decision at that point. At that point, I wrote out probably a 2-pager of the idea and started sending it out to a few people that were recommended to me that were in an app field or something similar so that I could see, what do they think? Is this valid? How much will it cost? And I think the cost part of it was the biggest deterrent early on. I was just very fearful of, how am I going to pay for this? And so that was really the first hurdle. But I would say that probably within a year, I knew I was going to do this. So probably around 2018, I knew I was going to be doing this. I didn't know exactly when I would make that full commitment. I thought after that, I was going to be doing that in 2019. And then circumstances didn't work out. And so then came 2020. And I really, really knew the time is now. It's this knock inside of you that just gets stronger and stronger. And so I knew I had to really map out what my plan was at that time.
Okay, I'm curious about that.
Sure.
The knock inside you, the K-N-O-C-K, knock.
Yes.
So like there was a knock inside you, a conversation
Yes.
that you said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. When you feel called to something, you feel it inside of you. And it's hard to explain what it feels like, but it's very clear and it's actually very loud. It sounds like a thought. You could call it intuition. For me, faith is such a huge part of me. So I always think the higher power is trying to guide me to a certain direction. And I knew it was something I genuinely wanted to do. And so the fact that since 2017, it didn't just kind of fade away, but it only got more affirmed through personal situations. There were so many situations where I was in and I thought, I could ROGO it. I wish ROGO was already here. Why is it not here? And it just got louder and louder. You do it. And I just didn't know, if I was ready for that for a while, but at a certain point, you hear you do it strong enough and you know that you're called to this.
How many people are involved in the venture so far?
Altogether, probably 20.
So cool.
Yeah, and that's including investors, that's including my designers and developers, my bookkeeper, the CPA consultant, startup consultant, people I've already worked with. We actually just shot our commercial. And so probably the list is even higher since that, because I have property people I've been working with, videographers, content.
What can we do? What can I and the people listening and being a part of this conversation, what can we do to help you?
One of the things that I would say is check out the website. So it's ROGO, ROGO, rent.com.
Okay.
And that's really our landing site. So it'll give you a highlight of the app. And there's going to be a subscribe area. So if you enter in your email, you'll get all the updates on when the pilot launches, the official launch, promotions, events that are coming up. And so that's a really great way to support, because we really want to get the word out there. And even if you yourself aren't thinking, I'm planning an event, you might know someone. And so definitely share, because this is meant to be a service and a value to people. So that would be the first way. The second way is, like I mentioned, one of the things that we're going to be doing is a pilot launch. And what that means, it's a secret launch. It's not fully available for everyone. And what we're going to be doing during that time is looking for people that have those rental event items and are open to making a side income off of that. And so whether you have extra tables, chairs, photo backdrops, dishware, silverware that you're thinking to yourself, hey, I would love to make some extra money off of this, I want to hear from you. So send me an email, a message, subscribe, and you'll learn more about the pilot launch that way as well. But definitely reach out, because that's going to be one of the biggest things we're taking on before our official launch. So if you think, hey, I might be a lender, even if you're not sure, reach out and let's have a conversation.
I love the word conversation.
I thought you might.
I think this is a fantastic idea and a game changer. And of course, I love talking to people with vision who want to change the rules of the game. And it reminds me of the car share programs, like Zipcar was one that I used to use. And it's kind of like Airbnb, but for stuff.
Exactly. Yes. And like you said, with weddings, that's one. But even in a wedding, there's a bridal shower, a bachelorette party, a rehearsal dinner, a bachelor party. So, and then aside from just that space, there's baby showers I've helped plan. And these days, especially with the community I'm in, everyone has a very lavish party. I mean, the photo backdrops are here. Everything is an Instagram moment. And so you see people spending a lot of money or really struggling to find, does my friend have this thing, or does my other friend have that thing? ROGO brings it all together. So you're not having to stress about it or really think who has it, who doesn't. It's easy. It's there. You see exactly who has what, and you rent it.
What is on your mind? What else would you like to share?
Going back to the conversations, I think there's so many conversations, I think, like we talked about with investors that you're having, developers, designers. Going back to that conversations, one of the things that came to my mind when I thought, I'm going to talk to Ivan about is the conversations you have with yourself and the self-talk, and how do you navigate that? Because full transparency, it goes like this. There are very high highs, very low lows, and self-talk is what gets you to that medium and helps you kind of survive that journey of entrepreneurship. And so I think, that is one of the things that I would say is, if there's anyone out there thinking about this, one of the first things you can start with is learning how to self-talk with yourself, because that's going to be a huge indicator of how well you do. If you are being really negative and not believing in yourself, and you're going into conversations with others, maybe you're saying the right things, but that energy, there might be a clash. You really want to make sure that you're bringing yourself as a whole into conversations.
I love that. I'm very excited to share the following.
Yeah.
So I was working on my self-talk, and I asked a coach for some input, because what I believe is anybody who is a hard driving professional and very successful, most likely they have a pretty hard driving self-talk. And self-talk is usually not a positive thing unless it's intentional. So I got a recommendation of a book called How to Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. I did a podcast episode about it, and I tweeted Shad Helmstetter, and his PR agent approached me, and the next booked guest on Conversations About Conversations is Dr. Shad Helmstetter.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. That's incredible. Yes. And I think that's honestly, not only is it a skill to have, it's a skill you can always grow and develop. And so even if you're someone that thinks, I'm great at self-talk, I'm good, there's always room for growth. And a lot of times we need a reminder, even if we're good 1 year or 1 week, the next week might be different. And so having that reminder. So I would say definitely everyone should stay tuned, and definitely they should also see all of the podcasts you have about that topic.
It's a great topic. One of the things Dr. Shad Helmstetter recommends is that you record affirmations and that you play those affirmations daily or frequently. He said he conclusively proved that even if you don't agree with them, that eventually it gets into your subconscious.
Yes. And I think when you talk about recording yourself, you're also hearing your own voice, which is really helpful. So what I do, and I haven't done the recording, I've thought of that and I just haven't gone to it, but I have a lot of affirmations around my office, my room, so that I can go and say it out loud. If I'm somewhere in public or something like that, again, I think recording is great. Just throw on the, earbuds. I also am very big on journaling, getting my thoughts out. And if I am struggling with something, writing it out. I am this, or I am being intentional in this. So there's so many different tools. I even, to go one step further, there's always room to have several sources of this, whether it's a recording, whether it's things around your room. I even wrote myself a letter. So if things aren't working and I need something else, a different tool, I actually have a letter. So on the really tough days, it's an encouraging letter from myself to myself. And so that's just another way to help with the self-talk, I think.
I love that. Do you mind sharing a little bit of what your letter to yourself says?
Yeah. So I think kind of what you said is really interesting. You know, how it's writing a letter to your inner child. I think when I do have moments of extreme doubt or anxiety, it is the inner child. It's that fearful, what's next? And I'm not sure. And so in a way, I guess I am writing to that person, but my letter specifically is around business, because there are so many uncertainties in starting a venture. You never know what's around the next corner. You could plan all day, and that's great. You want to have a plan, but you have to be so flexible. And then when things don't work out, you have to push through that. And so when I'm having a hard time doing that, that's where this letter comes in. And it's just saying, why you started. You need to be here. You're called to do this. There's a faith element as well. Spiritually, you are guided. You have what it takes. It's in you. And also saying, don't think about, it helps me not think too much about the future and what's next. And it makes me come into the present. What does success today look like? And focus on that.
Vlada, as the first CEO, and I'm honored by this, as the first CEO to be on Conversations about Conversations, what would you like to say as a closing statement?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would like to say thank you to you, Ivan, for having me on the show. Thank you to all of your listeners. And I really do hope that ROGO is an app that you're using to solve your event problems and make it an easier and more fun process for anyone that's using it. And yeah, definitely check out the website, rogorent.com. Check us out on Instagram. It's at @rogo_rent. And then my email, of course, if you're a lender and you're interested, please reach out to me. You can do it through those channels or email me directly. It's Vladlena@rogorent.com.
I love it. I want to make a closing statement.
Yeah.
And my closing statement is to acknowledge you for the courage that it takes to do what you're doing, to acknowledge you for the strategies that you're putting into place, the writing a letter to yourself, the having affirmations. I want to acknowledge you for the vulnerability and sharing that. I feel the same way. Like, I spend a lot of the time doubting, and all there is to do is to keep taking one step at a time, taking a step forward and believing and creating something. And to close, where you create that, and that's why I'm passionate about this show, is in conversation.
I love that, Ivan. And thank you so much. I
Yes.
think encouraging one another. I think that's one of my favorite things on this journey, is seeing other people put their self forward and go after what they're passionate about. And it can be scary and you are vulnerable. And so the community that I found with people that have done this on some level, whether it's early or a little bit later, there has been so much encouragement and support. And it's just really great to have each other's backs and, continue to be encouraging to one another. I love that.
Wonderful. Vlada, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ivan.
I'm just now gaining clarity about what this show is for.
Mm.
Like instead
Will you
of
share?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
my idea is
absolutely.
that if you're just getting clarity, I'd love to know kind of where you're being brought into.
Well, this is the 228th episode. Okay. So I've done a lot of repetitions. I thought the show was about my book. And the whole reason I started podcasting at the beginning of 2019 is because I finished the book at the end of 2018 and had no idea how to market a book.
Yeah.
And I was on a podcast. I liked it. And I thought, what a great way to do it. Even though I enjoy public speaking and have done a lot of it in my career, this is not public speaking, not in the way that most public, it is public, right? Like this is going to be on YouTube and it's public.
Yeah.
But there's nobody here. And for the first 100 episodes, I just talked to my phone in my car and there was nobody and I don't know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. If you're public speaking in a group, you see your audience.
Yeah.
I was doing content just about my book, from my book, about my book. And that made it about me and made it about selling a book. And don't get me wrong, I would love to sell lots of books.
Yeah.
What I started realizing, and this is based on the last few guests, is that I want to talk to people who are leading conversations that are difference making. The phrase that I want to use is they're movers, shakers, and difference makers.
Yeah, I love that.
And to
I've heard the first ones before, movers and shakers, but I like that last part, difference makers.
Yeah.
That's great.
Movers, shakers, and difference makers. And there's the head bob. And
I know I get a little sassy with that.
I want to explore with them what it means to lead a conversation that makes a difference. That inspires me.
Yes.
Movers, shakers, difference makers. We want to talk to you and we want you to be listening and we want you to be a part of this conversation about conversations.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's incredible and I support you. Hey guys, it means the world to me when you like or share or comment. You know, I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Your response matters to me. I think sometimes people maybe just forget that.
If you would be so kind as to let me know, I would be grateful. Or as you said, hey guys, it means a lot to me if you let me know that you've listened to this.
Yeah, like, comment, support, share with your friends.
Yeah.
Even if you learned a little bit, you never know who this might reach and how it might impact their day. So it truly means the world. And both Ivan and I appreciate it.